Welcome all members of the Comic Collectors Guild and those of you who are just thinking about joining. My name is Wes. I'm known on Instagram as Comics Addicts. And today from Poughkeepsie, New York, we have Bam, also known as kingbam1974. How's it going, Bam?
Good, good. How you doing, Wes?
Very good. So you are very close to the epicenter of this huge pandemic. Can you tell me how life is going for you right now? Are you staying safe?
Yeah. It's been pretty crazy. I work in the Bronx, and there's a lot of crazy things going on over there. Everybody's been hit pretty bad over there. But for the past month, they have us isolated and quarantined in our homes. And so far, we've been trying to relax and dealing with everything from home. But I can imagine maybe in about a week or two, we're going back to work. And I could just imagine the craziness that's going to ensue when we go back.
That might be wishful thinking at this point, but we'll see what happens. It would also be awfully nice to have a new comic book day, wouldn't it?
Right. I think that's one of the things I think most of us miss the most.
Certainly anyone watching this video is. All right, well, thanks for agreeing to talk to me today, Bam. I'm going to start off with the same question I start off with all my interviewees, and that is, tell me about your collection story, your journey. How did you get into this hobby that we all love?
I guess I was a teenager, probably in the late 80s. I was with my dad. We were driving, I'm pretty sure, in Brooklyn, and I was pretty bored. My dad needed something for me to do, so he stopped at a local store. They're called Optimals around Queens, Brooklyn. So he picked up some candy and he picked up a comic book. And at first glance, I'm like, I'm not a little kid. Why are you getting me this? And it was Web of Spider-Man. I believe it was 31, and it was the Hunt for Craven. I think it was when he was supposed to die. That whole saga. And I read it. Kind of got hooked and told my dad, can I get the next one? And he said, as long as you do your schoolwork, I'll buy you one every week. And that was it. I just got hooked, and just my money every week for doing chores ended up just going to comic books. And that's how I got into it. It's pretty cool.
Your dad was very wise to use that as an incentive plan.
Yeah, as he was.
So you've been collecting regularly since then?
For, I want to say, up till I got into college. Then everything switched over to schoolwork. I had to get a job. And my money from getting the job just couldn't go to comic books. So I kind of stopped. Then after college, I got married. I had kids. Houses, cars. I mean, you know the deal. Money was going allocated to different places, and it just couldn't go to comics. So,
I know that deal very well.
Right. So just recently, I just been picking it back up. I want to say maybe about 4 years ago, I started picking it back up.
Well, clearly you've been doing pretty well for yourself. I'm looking at your wall behind you. And
Yeah.
Envy, you have a very impressive collection just from what we can see.
Right. Well, and it wasn't like that before. Some of the Instagram followers they can see that I have a big sneaker collection. Before, it was a lot bigger. So what I did was I sold some of those sneakers to fund the comic books. And that's how I got most of the comics that I have now.
Speaking as a person who's a little older than you, I'm going to say
How much?
10 years older, I'm going to guess. I never knew that you could resell sneakers because in my house, we didn't get to have the fancy leather Nikes. We always wore the Chuck Taylors, and we wore those bad boys until they disintegrated. I taught high school for many years, and I was always a little bit confused that someone would get so upset about a little scratch on a sneaker when I would think the more beat up my Chuck T's look, the cooler they are. So
Right.
a little bit about that aspect of collecting because I'm certainly unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, my parents didn't have a lot of money, so all those sneakers was out of reach. So I had, I had the Vans, I had the Chuck Taylors, I had the beat up Nikes. I just couldn't afford those sneakers that I wanted, the Jordans. And it wasn't until maybe after my son was born, which was about 18 years ago, that I started picking up sneakers. I could afford it. I got a job, and yeah, I just started picking up there where I could afford the sneakers that I wanted as a kid. And they started retroing those sneakers. And then that's when I started realizing that if you keep the sneakers in good condition, you can actually resell them for sometimes more money than what you spent on them. And some people now, I mean, that's how they make a living, by reselling sneakers. It's crazy.
Really?
Yeah,
Amazing. I had no idea.
yeah, yeah. It's
Now I'm curious. You mentioned that you have an 18-year-old son. Does he also get into collecting like you have?
I think it's something that I kind of forced upon him. So he reads, he likes a lot of the stuff I like, but he doesn't actively seek it. He'll just maybe read something that's around that I have, or he'll go to a Comic-Con if I go to one, but he's not the type of person right now that he's into that specifically for himself. He'll just go because I'm going.
Yeah, I have girls, so it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, my daughter's maybe a little into it more than my son is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have a 16-year-old daughter, so she's a little into it more.
What titles does she like to read?
More I think more she's into like anime, like Mega Man, more of the Japanimation anime. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I think that's what she likes more.
Yeah, my girls are into that too. They are into haiku and My Hero Academia and some of
Hmm.
the manga that they really
Yep,
enjoy. I try to get them into stuff that I like too. I gotta have something to talk to them about.
yeah, yeah. When all these movies come out, I feel like I'm like an encyclopedia for all these comic book movies. So I'm explaining to them, and they seem interested, but you never know sometimes.
Well, they do have all the cute boys in there. I mean, the Chris's, Hemsworths,
Yeah,
and Pratt. So, collecting comics has been a predominantly male activity, and a lot of women have started getting into it, especially not just with collecting, but also cosplay. And I was wondering, as a father of a teenage girl, do you have any concerns about your daughter getting involved in this to the degree that you are? Is there anything that you have been thinking about as you watch her get older and get more interested?
yeah, yeah. So um, I'm a very protective father, and even if somebody's not my daughter, sometimes I feel myself a little bit overprotective for them. So seeing things happen to them, I always go back to thinking about my daughter. How would I feel if somebody did that to my daughter? So going to cons and I see guys, you know, touching or doing inappropriate things with certain women that are dressed up, or even young girls that are dressed up, and just because they're dressing sexy doesn't mean they want sex or they want you to touch somebody. And I always tell my daughter, nobody touches you. I'm always here, but if I'm not here, you have to, make sure you set boundaries that no guy or girl should cross. And, so sometimes I'm a little leery of her going to certain places without me. And, it's I guess it's the times. It's something that we shouldn't have to live with guys or girls acting like that with certain people, but it's something that's around that we got to deal with. And then online, specifically, there was a young girl. I wouldn't even say young girl. She was a young woman, and she was selling comic books on Instagram. Really nice person. She would go out to different places. She would buy books, uh, actually like new release books. And if you didn't pick it up or your local comic book shop didn't have it, she would sell it to you decent prices. And I would notice that some guys weren't paying her. And then after they weren't paying her, they were like berating her online, which was crazy. I'm like, she's doing you a favor. She's getting books. If you're not gonna pay, don't don't write claim. Don't agree to purchase the book. Just because she's a woman doesn't mean you can take advantage and not pay her. So, and it's weird because for certain dudes, I didn't see that. It was just this particular woman that a lot of guys were doing it to her. So she kind of felt she needed to stop doing it because guys were kind of taking advantage of her. And I just thought that was wrong. So I kind of like stepped out. I said things to a couple of guys, and I started noticing that I'm getting into beef with kids online that I don't even know. I don't even know what these kids look like. I don't know what's going on with them. So I kind of had to step back. But it's just something I've been thinking about as well. That, it's predominantly guys collecting comic books, but there are women and there are girls that collect them and like it. They shouldn't be excluded or taken advantage of. So it's something I'm thinking about too.
We have that dad instinct in us, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to protect them. We want to take care of them. We see you have a pretty extensive collection just judging by your background. And I'm going to ask you to highlight 3 parts of your collection that have the most meaning to you, that are most important to you. Where would you like to start?
Number 1 is definitely going to be my Hulk 180, which I recently picked up. And I always wanted Hulk 181. It's just out my price range. And I was lucky enough to finally get 180, which is the first cameo, first appearance of Wolverine. I mean, the debate goes on. But, just to have a comic book with just his first words or his first appearance was just everything to me. That was like my main character growing up. So I think that's probably my highlight. And then my second one would be, there's a movie in the 80s that I watched, and I must have watched it about 100, 200, 300 times. It was called Rad. And it was about BMX. It was about bikes. And every time I would watch the movie, I would take my bike and I would go outside thinking I was Crew Jones, which was the main character in the movie. So I have a card, a baseball sports card of Crew Jones. I actually went to Texas to fly out, and I had him sign it, and I met him. I took a picture with him. It was surreal. It was awesome to meet him. And that's another item that's good in my collection. And then my third one is when I was a kid, 80s, watching the cartoons, the Transformers, G.I. Joes. There was a specific Transformer character called Jetfire, which was an Autobot. I always wanted him. I asked my parents to get him. They could. I don't know if they couldn't afford it. They couldn't find it. Remember a lot of those toys, they was to sell out back in the day. And so I finally got the Jetfire, and so right now that's one of my pieces in the collection. So those 3, I think. Yep.
Totally relate to that. You want to know how badly I wanted a ROM Space Knight character figure? One of those big ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I begged for that one for like 3 straight Christmases and never got it.
Wow.
I don't know if they exist anymore. I'm sure someone has them under glass somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me a really cool collector's story?
When I finally got back into comics, I remember when I was a kid, the feeling of going to a Comic-Con and getting a book signed. And so it was like the first year getting back into comic books. I bought a ticket for New York Comic-Con, and I went in. And I was shocked because back in the days in Manhattan, everything was just about comic books. Now when you go, it's cosplay, anime, video games. I mean, everything. Sometimes it's more about that stuff than it is about the comic books, which is crazy. But I took a couple of books that I wanted to get signed, and I don't know, I guess I was nervous, meeting some of these guys for the first time, doing everything that I did when I was a kid. So I had this one book that I really wanted to get signed. It was a Batman Return of the Dark Knight by Frank Miller. And I I wanted Frank Miller to sign it. I don't know if the line was too big or he just wasn't there, but I think the guy's name was Claus Jansen. I waited on the line, so I give him the book, and I'm like, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And he's like, I can barely hear him as there was so much commotion. And he tells me what I'm thinking is he's telling me, where are you from? And I'm like, well, I'm from around here. I'm from New York. And after I talk, he starts writing. And I was like, well, is he just signing? And then he stops midway as he signs. And he goes, it's weird. Is your name New York? And I'm like, no. He's signing New York on my comic book. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? And I was like, no, my name's Frankie. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, and he's like, listen, give me an address and I'll send you another copy. And I was like, okay. To this day, I've never gotten a copy. But I still have the comic book and you can see that he wrote New, and midway through York, he stops. So I've kept it as like a conversation piece, and everybody asks me, I'm like, you want to see what this dude did? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, your comment about how cons have changed is really interesting because I remember back in the day, cons were basically about comics and the artists, and maybe you might have some professional people from the studios in costume parading around, but it wasn't like it is today. And the fact that the fandom has expanded so much, some people, like especially older collectors, might find that a little intimidating. But I think it adds diversity to our collecting community. How do you feel about it?
I think it's cool to see so many people in different genres at the cons. So I mean, I guess those are the kind of things that are just weird that I had to adjust to, which I've adjusted to now.
Yeah, I see you have a few CGC books in the background there.
Yeah, yeah.
Ones that you purchased and sent off, or did you buy them like that?
Yeah, so I'm still reluctant to do the CGC now. I wasn't a big CGC guy, but my local comic book shop, there's a guy on Instagram, Very Gary. I'm not sure if you know him, but he comes by our local comics book shop and he does the CGCs. And I guess he does them in bulk. And if you do it with him, it's a little cheaper. And I said, you know what, let me try. So I did a couple of them, but I don't actively seek when I go to cons to get something CGC. And I know that's a big thing. And if you're into it, that's cool. It's just not something I'm into. I usually just want to read the comic book. If I wanted to get it signed, I don't need somebody to witness it. I'm witnessing it. It's me. So it's just for me. So, but I have a couple of them.
It was always how much it costs. It's like some
Yeah.
barely afford my pull list, and then on top of that,
Yeah.
like another $50 to get it, slabbed. I'm like, I got to use that money for other things.
Yeah. 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 But I mean, a lot of people are into it. So I mean, if that's what you're into, go for it. I'm not gonna knock you for doing it.
I'm guessing you don't participate in cosplay. Is that correct?
No, I have a couple of times because my daughter, she's into art and she likes getting dressed up, and sometimes so I have dressed up with her, and I'll post a couple of sometimes on Instagram, but nothing crazy. I'll get a mask and something, but I won't go like full Deadpool or Wolverine costume. I don't think I have the balls to do that yet.
Who have you cosplayed?
Oh, I think one time we went. I just put a Punisher shirt on, and we brought fake guns. Another time, I went on as some weird bear, bloody kind of thing. So it was really weird. It was something last minute, just so my kids wouldn't, go by themselves dressed up, so they had somebody else. So, but as long as the kids have fun, I don't care. I'll look stupid.
Talking about collecting, I mean, you do comics. You clearly have some toys. You have figures. Looks like. I'm seeing Star Wars in the background, of course, our bad boy Thanos, and you collect sneakers too, but we're going to stick with comics, okay? Is there an object or an issue or something that you are really wishing to have in your collection, something that you're always looking for? Besides Hulk 181, because you already mentioned that.
Yeah, so besides Wolverine, I'm a big fan of Thanos. So maybe getting Iron Man 55, I believe, which is the first appearance of Thanos. Getting that would be awesome to get also. So I mean, there's always a chance somebody posts something on eBay and misspells something, and I just get lucky. So fingers crossed. Let's see what happens.
Looking back over your childhood, you mentioned that Wolverine was a character you really connected with. Now that you're older, is there a character that you connect with now that actually is more accurately representing who you are as a person?
Mm, that's a good question. Back in the days, it wasn't so much that I connected with Wolverine for myself. It was more for my dad. My dad was like it was like the epitome of Wolverine. I mean, this dude, he was either feared or respected all around. And he was my dad. He was like my superhero. And it was just crazy. I'll tell you a quick story. So growing up, we grew up in Queens, New York. And on one side of our block was drug dealers. The other side of the block was nice, peaceful area. One day, somebody stole my father's minivan. Back in the days, he had a Caravan. So somebody came over and said, I know who stole the minivan. It was a drug dealer on the corner. So my father goes into his drawer, takes out, remember back in the days, they would have these long Rambo knives, and on the end, it would be like a compass on the end. So he pulls one of them out, puts it in his pocket, and he goes to the corner. And he tells me, stay here. I'm not going to stay here. I go follow.
It's about to go down.
Yeah, so he goes to the corner. He sees a drug dealer on the corner, picks him up, puts him against the wall, takes the knife, puts it between the guy's legs. And he tells me, if you ever touch my car or anything of mine again, I'm going to cut your balls off. And I yell. I don't know if it's excitement or fear. So my father turns around and I run. So I don't see what happens next. But the stories that went down from that, I mean, that's like almost exactly what Wolverine would kind of do, in some kind of situation like that. So going, through the years reading about Wolverine and what he's doing, it's just like reading about my father. So that's how I kind of connected to Wolverine and how he's like my favorite character. Because, I picture my dad in that role.
Thanos is one of your favorite characters, and of course, Endgame was amazing. Are there any other movies, superhero-related movies, or TV shows that you can recommend that you really enjoy?
Well, my number one comic-related movie is Old Man Logan, and not for the simple fact that I love the character, but I just think how they kind of incorporated some of the comic book into the movie, where they kind of changed the storyline a little bit. So it wasn't Wolverine that kind of went psycho and killing people. That Professor X kind of lost control of his powers. And I think that was pretty good. And how they incorporated X-23 into the storyline, I think that was awesome. And I just like the soundtrack of the movie and how it flowed from beginning to end. I think it was really, really well done.
Have you tried watching it in the black and white version?
I have, and how awesome is that? How awesome is that?
It had a real Sergio Leone feel to it. It had a noir aspect to it. I felt like it really added to the
Yeah,
viewing of the movie.
I did too. I think that was awesome.
Besides collecting sneakers, are there any other non-comic related hobbies that you have?
As a family, we collect pins, like enamel pins. that's pretty cool. I mean, we're not huge into it, but we do collect. We go. There's a couple of actual pin cons that happen in New York City that we'll attend, and that's pretty cool because it's not only pins. They'll have T-shirts and art and stuff at those events. So that's something else that we like to collect, and just movies. We just love going to movies and seeing all types of different movies. I think that's another big thing that as us as a family we love to do.
So you have mentioned you're a married dude. You have a couple of kids. They're both teenagers. Am
Yep.
I looking at Dad's secret man cave, or is this a room in the house that's hidden away?
It's not that secret. It's actually it's one of the bedrooms. It was like a guest room that I was fortunate enough to be able to convert into my little man cave. So not so secret.
Well, the reason why I ask is because all married guys have got to deal with the fact that they have a lot of stuff that sometimes their wives hate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm kind of lucky in that fact that she doesn't hate it so much. She just doesn't want to see it around. So she'll likes a lot of the things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She'll like some of the things I like. She just doesn't want to have it cluttered around the house. So that's pretty cool.
My lovely bride was kind enough to finish our basement, and that's where all my stuff is.
Oh, nice, nice. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. So you've already told us a really good story about the signing of your Dark Knight Returns, but I wanted to ask you about another embarrassing collection story that you might be able to share with us.
All right, yeah. I have a really pretty funny one. So this happened maybe last year. Yeah, last summer, matter of fact. We went to Rhode Island Comic Con. So I like to go to Comic Cons for the comic books to get comic books signed and to see if I can find something. The family likes to go see cosplay and to take pictures with the entertainment guests, TV, movies. So last year, at Rhode Island, they were gonna have the family from National Lampoon's Vacation. So Chevy Chase, all of them. They were gonna have a group photo. We were gonna be in it. So it was gonna be our family with Chevy Chase's family. So we go over there, wait on the line. We get into the little photo booth area. We stand behind them. I stand right behind Chevy Chase. My wife stands behind the wife. The kids stand over there. I'm looking to my left, and I'm noticing the son. I believe his name's Michael Anthony Hall, and he's nudging on the wife. And I don't know what's going on. They take the picture. We walk away. As we're walking away, the photographer yells. He goes, "They have to come back. They have to come back." I didn't know why until I turn around and I see Chevy Chase knocked out sleeping. Literally, he was snoring. So I look over and we walk back and we're trying to take the same positions that we took the first picture. As we're walking back, Chevy Chase is still sleeping. There's wires for the photographer. I trip over the wire and both hands go right into Chevy Chase's head. And the dude wakes up and he yells, "I'm up, I'm up." And Michael Anthony Hall's laughing. The wife is laughing. My wife is like nervous. She's like, "Oh my God, you just hit Chevy Chase." And I'm like, I didn't mean to. And I was like, I'm sorry. Chevy Chase was pissed. He was so mad at me. And they take the picture and we leave. And you can see the picture. He's not smiling. Like everyone else is pretty much smiling. That dude's upset. And it was just so funny. Like the rest of the day, I just couldn't stop laughing. So that's one of the funniest things. So messed up.
It's hilarious.
Every time I see these movies now with Chevy Chase, I can't stop laughing.
Okay, Bam, we're getting near the end here, and I want to give you the opportunity to send any messages out to the guild that you'd like to send, and anything you'd like to say.
Yeah, I want to send this out to the guild. Anybody that's looking to join, or anybody that's even a friend of somebody in the guild. like what you like, love what you love. Try not to what's keep up with the Joneses. If somebody posts something, you don't have to have what he has. There's a lot of guys in our club that have awesome statues. I mean, beautiful. I would love to have those statues, but right now I can't afford certain things. That doesn't mean I have to go out and try to purchase every single thing that somebody else has. And I just think if you just, if you want to pay for something and you want that, get that. Don't get it because somebody else has it. So I mean, just love what you love. Don't listen to anybody that's trying to force you to get something that you're not ready for. And I think you'll be happy. Just try to be as happy as you can be collecting something that you love.
Out of curiosity, I'm just interested in the reason you brought that up. Is that something you've experienced personally?
Yeah. So in the past 4 or 5 years that I've been on Instagram looking at people, I've noticed that certain guys feel the need to keep up with certain other people that are in this community. Like if somebody gets the giant size X-Men #1, which is the first appearance of all the guys joining the X-Men, some guys feel, well, I have to go on eBay, I have to get this book right now. And you don't. If you find it one day and it comes to you, awesome. But just because he has it or she has it doesn't mean you need it right now. But I mean, to each their own. If you really want to get it, go for it. I'm not gonna knock you for it. Just don't be, coerced or feel the need that just because somebody else has it, you have to get it. So I mean, I think that's what's going on.
You bring up a really good point because, full disclosure, my wife is a psychologist.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, so I'm in a lot of trouble half the time. But she knows I collect, and she's familiar with the whole collection aspect.
Right.
And always talking about, you're like 2 steps away from one of those hoarders that we see on those shows, right?
Yeah.
I guess maybe.
Yeah, not. I get you. That's how it was with the sneakers. When I had the sneakers, it was wall to wall behind me, a lot worse than the comic books. And my wife was saying the same thing. She's like, "Listen, there's a lot of these sneakers you're not even wearing. Why do you have so many?" And it was just something. And the same thing I talk about with the comics. I started noticing I was noticing some guys purchasing certain sneakers that I really liked. And I was like, well, if he has it, I got to get that. And I would go out and buy that. And I started thinking, why am I doing that?
The competitive nature of humanity. I think.
Yeah.
All right, Bam, it's time for us to finish up. Do you have any last messages to our guild members you'd like to share?
Yeah. I actually just want to thank everybody from the guild. Everybody's been really cool. For a while now, a couple of clubs have wanted me to join. I kind of took a step back and I decided to create my own club just for our family. When we go to cons, we would have our own little vest, and we called it the comic book nomads. And it was just us 4. We would go to comic book cons and we would just have our own little cuts. And I just noticing that the kids and stuff were getting a little out of it. So I wanted to join a club, and I noticed a couple of guys in the guild that I'm cool with. So I just wanted to thank everybody for being cool with me. And no more nomads. Now I'm a guild member, so it's pretty cool.
All right. That's a great way to end this. Bam, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
All right, Wes, take it easy, man. Thanks a lot.
You too. Stay safe out there, Bam.
All right, you too. Thanks.
And that's a wrap for Come Together, the show that spotlights membership for the Comic Collectors Guild. If you would like to be spotlighted for our show, please send me a message in my DMs on Instagram. at Comics Addicts. You can also contact our administration. Their handles will be at the end of the video. The Comics Collectors Guild is an open forum for all collectors and fanboys. Regardless of who you are and what you love, you are welcome to join for free. Just contact one of our administrators for details. It doesn't matter if you are a lover of cosplay or if you're an artist, writer, inker. If you love Doctor Who, manga, Lord of the Rings, anime, all are welcome to join. Please consider subscribing, leave us a like or a comment down below, and we'll see you next time.
Good. Competition is always good. And, you know, hopefully we get another DC versus Marvel story. The previous one was really good. I would love to see DC do a little bit more and get more aggressive so they can compete more with Marvel. And maybe even just there's nothing wrong with taking a page out of the book. Being in, like me, being in the IT business, a lot of people say, hey, we don't want to copy Amazon, but we want to be Amazon. Well, it's tough to make that comparison, you know, to Amazon or even Marvel because of how successful Marvel is. It's hard not to want to replicate that success in your own house. And I think, you know, DC realized that you can't just start off with a Thanos level villain in the movies with, you know, Darkseid, how it was supposed to be, and then Steppenwolf, and then go with their solo movies. You have to introduce the characters, which is why I think Marvel was so successful in the movie.